lights and let the show begin. How exciting is that? Welcome, Rod, and welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for dropping by and for joining in. I appreciate it. A big round of applause there for you, for dropping in for this on such a spontaneous notice, because I hadn't planned on picking this up until next week. And of course, good evening, Christina. How you doing? This is so nice. And Brian, my goodness, this is so nice that you guys could all make it. I wasn't going to pick this up until next week, and then I realized, hey, maybe next week we can start a different project. And I just need to make a couple of adjustments before I can set this off for render. Then I'll go do my day job, and then, by the time next week arrives, I come back. But every second counts, as they say. So I thought I'll make every second count, as they say. So there we go. And I thought I'll do this spontaneously, and I thought I might as well do this on camera so we can finish the whole series off today. Wow! And good morning to you, Jeremy. How exciting! What a nice little get together. I've rendered that little sequence from yesterday. That's the one that you just saw in the beginning. Let's just review that. Here it is again. And this is a low-res animatic. I just did that overnight with, what was it again? I think 32 samples. 32 samples per image. So hence it rendered rather quickly. And I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the look and feel. I love all the materials that we've added on there. I love the lighting, dimming in the end. There's one thing I'd like to change, and that's in the beginning. I'll tell you where that is. When we go and see this overhead shot, I think to really draw the viewers, attention to this sign here, I'm going to make this dim, like a bzz, 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 that sort of thing, Thank you, Brian. I think it looks great as well. We could have literally done so much more with materials, but maybe we will in the future. I'm happy to pick this up again in the future and put people in and all that and really go over the top, really go to town. But yeah, so I want to make this just animate a little bit like bzz, bzz, bzz. Once we've done that, then I'm replacing this texture here. So that's the one version done for JPlays. And the second version is then going to say just now showing 3D Shenanigans. And I need to replace that texture here. Look at that. This is something, I may look into that. That's just a little blob there. I can live with this and that, but I think this could possibly do with Rod and the mountain. Yeah, everything can be done with Blender, Rod, but I think you need some geometry to begin with. So if you can extract that out of view, maybe you're golden. I like those. I like all those materials. I like the carpet. I like that this is red, even though we only barely see it, and that these things are metal. I like all that. Here's the second texture we're going to replace. So instead of now showing JPlays, it'll say now showing 3D Shenanigans. And then, of course, the big thing that requires a little bit of fiddling is this. I was thinking we can use that fly-through sequence that I did of Stonemason's set that ends on the 3D Shenanigans logo. That's a cool idea, isn't it? I think I'll do that, because the other version would have been the one, the other Stonemasons thing where it says 3D Shenanigans and kind of goes like this. But I think I like the zooming in thing, and then I can literally just bolt that onto the end of that slate, and then we're just going to watch a bit of that until 3D Shenanigans is here full screen. That's the plan. But I need to make that video, and I need to put it in and all that. So there we go. That's a good point. Yes, and landscape, that is a good add-on. I've used that in the past. It's a randomized, it basically creates a very subdivided plane in Blender and adds kind of a height map to it with random distributed noise. I think it's done, and you have several parameters. It's a little bit like, if you're familiar with that thing in what's that called again? Bryce works the same way, or Carrara does landscapes like that. So click a button and it just goes boom, landscape, and you can have it as detailed as you want. Yes, and landscape, ANT landscape. Let's have a look if it's inside. If it ships with Blender, or if you have to download it. I don't remember. Oh, cool. Good to know. While we're talking about landscapes, I found the way to make these outlines a little bit stronger here. I thought that'll help the stream. I really like that. Also helps my eyes. see what's going down on the screen. So that's that I did that this morning. Let's have a look for Ant Landscape. So that's under add-ons. Landscape, ANT, there we go. Mesh add-on ANT Landscape. Let's enable it, see what happens. Christina, remind me, do I have to restart it? Or can I just leave it like that? Is that how it works? I always forget with Blender. It can be pernickety. Okay, cool. So then we go, just add something, Shift A, and here we go with landscape. That's kind of cool. Add landscape mesh. It's people who make that. Jimmy, what's his name? Jimmy Hazel something. And there it is. Landscape. And it's currently, it's not very high res, but that can be alleviated by just adding a little subdivision modifier. Much smoother. Make it even smoother. Landscape. Ta-da! I would love it if that were to come with a shader. Has a vote. There we go. Thank you. Has a vote. I would love it if that were to come with a shader. So this is, I don't think it comes with a shader, but you can set up a height shader that behaves that, say these are snow-peaked mountains, so they'd have snow on the top here, and this is where it kind of goes greener, and then you can put another plane in that. You can add a water shader to it. So like what the landscape guys always do is just shift S Z, scale this height wise, add a regular plane to it with the plane, that plane. GZ, put that to about here, and then add a water shader to that plane. So this is kind of, snow-capped mountains, and this is kind of where it goes green, and here you have got some yellowish kind of sand type thing, and this is then water, and that's your basic landscape. And then of course, scale that, and you've got a little island poking out of the water there. There we go. But you can also do these things. You can use them in combination rod if you know how to do things in View, and you want to bring this into Blender and do some adjustments to it. Just try to export the geometry from View. Maybe that'll help, and then bring them into Blender and see if you can set up the shaders in Blender. There's one more thing I want to try. While we're chatting here, let me get rid of the landscape and create another one, because there's usually a start menu. It could be, is it here? Yes, there we go. So if you open that, there's all kinds of settings that you can do here. I believe this is the randomizer. Is that how it works? I kind of forgot. It's been a while since I've used it, but this lets you set some starting parameters for the whole thing, for the whole scene. So endless hours. Nice. Subdivisions. I suppose I can make that bigger. That may be a little much. I know. Don't forget the subdivision surface modifier, of course. You can start your landscape off in various ways. Interesting. Indeed. So now the thing, good point, Christina, now the thing is gone. So once I've made my adjustments, it's kind of a Blender thing. It does that for most of the primitives that you create. Once you've made your adjustments and then you do something else with it, like put a subdivision surface modifier on it, that initial menu is gone. So that kind of locks all these parameters in. Just before that, you can fiddle with them. And landscape, love it, very nice. I'm gonna go and bring my last session in, which was Cinema 17. Actually, I've got to show you something else. That's why I saved Cinema 18 already. I don't want to do that just yet because there's something else that I did this morning, and that was a render. That was of the exterior with 3D Shenanigans. So just to give you an overview of what I have planned in regards to replacing the textures, this is what I mean. So this is what it'll look, and that's just a very simple replacement there. Oh, thank you, Rod. Yes, I saw that. I shall reply to that as soon as we're done here. So this is what I want to replace for the second version, but I believe the glowing thing, I can do that just with the emission setting, and I'll do that for the JPlace sequence, and then we'll go and save that, and then we're going to go and replace the textures. That's the idea. Yes, but high resolution render looks very nice. So we do the glowing thing, we have a look at that material, and we save that. Another title sequence coming on shortly after. I like it. I think so too, Christina. I think so too. Let's delve into it. So let's not save that. Let's go. Yes, I've noticed that I believe I must have saved this with a render window open, and in the background is Blender now. This is just a window in front of it, and if I try and close this window now, Blender crashes. So I have to just wait until the viewport kind of gets this Eevee render in place. Oh, it's already happened, and now I can close this window. I don't know why that happened. It's one of those things. There we go. That's JPlace again. And I guess I'll do that in the shading tab, don't I? Sign left. I don't think I'm going to make the sign on the right do the same thing. I think the sign on the left is just going to be fine for that. Oh yes, I put that in the emission shader, didn't I? Ah. Now that presents a little challenge because it looks like I don't have a parameter as such to animate here. I hadn't thought of that. I'm going to do that. Oh, alpha maybe. Is that something I could try? What happens if I turn the alpha down? Oh yeah, okay, that might work. What does that look like in cycles? Huh. Yes, it seemed to happen, Christina, on this file with that render window open. That really confuses Blender. I might report that. I might do that. And hello, Joe. How you doing? Good to see you. I thought I'd go on air a little bit earlier today because you guys are going to dinner. No, it's purely selfish reasons. It's a nice coincidence that you guys can make it. Okay, so alpha value of 0 is now, that's just transparency, isn't it? That's just transparency. I want to animate something like this here, that going out and that going back in. So I could probably put something in between here. That's how I can see this working. I'm not sure what node that needs to be, but yeah, color goes into emission to make that sign light up. So we need something like a kind of a switch parameter, just a regular, not even a converter. It's just a straight in and a straight out, like a regular math. Maybe math could work. Value and value. Oops. And not even add. We just go and say. We just say absolute. Absolute? No, absolute. Terrible idea. There's always the pre-records, you know, that you can watch, Joe. But it is something different to watch that rather than to be live. So I'm so surprised that you all can make it. That's very nice. Yeah, let me have a look. Thank you, Christina. Let me have a look. See what it says. Yeah, I think I know the principle there. I think what I can't do currently is animate the parameter because I need a kind of number to just to be in the path here. But I think this absolute subtract multiply, I just need like a straight in and straight out. Power maybe. Is power good? No, power's also not good. Dang. Could just try regular emission shader in between. That might work. So we just go to shader and just have an emission shader in between. That might work. That's got a green output now rather than a yellow output. Let's try. Put that in there. Is that bringing back the same thing if we just go and put something like crazy in here? Like now, it's not gonna work either. Backdoor 3D, how you doing? Good to see you, my friend. Very good morning to you. Here's a Blender question for you, Steve. This is the problem. There's no problem really, but my brain came up with this idea after seeing the final version of the title sequence. Currently, the way I'm making this glow effect happen is by plugging the texture directly into the emission channel of the shader, which is just a principal BSDF shader, and that makes the sign glow up. I take that out, it just looks like a regular texture, but it doesn't glow. I like to animate that, but to animate anything, I need to have a value. So I need to have something in between here that turns this into a straight in and a straight out value that I can animate. I don't know what it is. Can you help me out? A mix shader, says Grofili. Welcome to the stream, by the way. A mix shader, yes, that is a possibility. I understand what you mean. That is not a bad call. We're just recreating this whole shader, just making two of them, put them into a mix shader, and then that's a very clever idea. We can do that. Capum Slaymore! Woohoo! On the materials tab, says Christina, is there. There isn't anymore because it's now a texture. Usually that's a value, but I've lost the value the moment I plug the texture in. You see what's going on here? So the moment I take the texture out, it is actually a value I can animate. But the moment I do that, that ain't happening no more. That is the problem. Proximal Borg, thank you so much for following. I appreciate that. A circle on the right. Oh, that. Okay, this. But I don't know what that web, I'm not sure which circle you're referring to. You mean this circle here? Is that the one? I mean, the thing is, I don't know how to, the way for me to get rid of the glow here or to put any kind of value in it, I just don't have the value, Christina. I think that's the issue. I mean, I might be able to animate that field. This, I mean, I can try. Let me just go try and put an eye in here. No, it doesn't work. It's because it's not a value, I guess. No worries, no worries. I think I want to go with Grofili's suggestion and just duplicate this shader. I think I'm going to do that, unless I can find a different suggestion that I've read over, not read over rather. Emission shader as an overlay, that's an idea. That is an idea. Let me try that. That's a good idea. So let's take this thing out quickly. So there's nothing emitting from the principal BSDF. Put that texture down here. Add an emission shader. Emission. Pop that in is yes. Put yes. Put that here. Put that here. Make that a bit bigger. Add a mix shader. I like that. I like that mix shader. Goes into here. Emission shader goes in, number 1. Principal BSDF shader goes into number 2. That shader then goes into that surface. And now we plug, and here's the key. We don't just use white and that as an overlay. We take the same color texture into the emission shader. And now we're mixing these two to a value of 0.5. That means both of them are mixed together in equal parts. If I change that to 0, I'm getting the same effect as before. I'm changing it to 1. I'm only getting the emission shader. Graphili, 100 points. That is actually very cool. Thank you so much for the suggestion. That is awesome. That's how we're doing it. And this is the factor I can now animate. That is seriously cool. Thank you so much. It's exactly the kind of missing piece of the puzzle that I needed. Let me arrange this here and take another closer look at it. See if we all understand what I'm doing here. See if we're all on the same page. Shaders are a tricky subject. Let me just go through this one more time. That is so nice of you. We have a texture coming out of here, which is just this texture here. And that has a color output. The color output in the regular no frills BSDF shader just gets into the base color, and out comes the shader. The shader goes into a mix shader. Mix shader mixes two things together, and that mix shader goes into our actual material output. That's what we see. It being a mix shader, we're also taking the same texture output, popping it into an emission shader, which delivers a green output, yellow input, green output, puts that into the second input of the mix shader, and that now is animatable between glowing and not glowing. Super awesome stuff. I love it. I completely love it. I think I'm going to use this exact same thing for the interior thing I want to animate. There's a little second sign. I may have that blink as well. So where I'd like for that to happen, and I think I'm going to do this in look dev again. He says, as Blender has crashed here now. Blender hasn't crashed. Come on, Blender. Look dev it is. Come on. Come on. Come on, stay with us here. Yes. Good stuff. Where I'd like for that to animate is literally when we have just finding the correct output here. So we come into here, and just about here, I think I'd like for that to go off over a period of 5 frames or 6 frames, so that it goes bzz, 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 you know. So it's on, then it goes bzz, bzz, so twice. I do that here. I'm going to animate the emission channel here by just pressing I in there. It doesn't have to be that many frames, maybe just like, you know, it's 60 frames a second, so I'm going to make it as fast as possible. Now on here, I'm going to press I again, so we have 2 keyframes over which period of time that is being animated with the value, whoops, 0. That's not, I'm so sorry, that's not the node I wanted to animate, actually. I'm so sorry. I wanted to animate the factor, not the emission. I'm so sorry. That's might as well leave that here. Go to the, whoops, go to that keyframe. Over here, factor is, that's perfect. Animate that. I here, let's go to the next thing. I there. At that point, I want to go and set 0. So that stops. A few frames later, oh, it's back on again, is it? It burns. I'm going to go get rid of the keyframe start totally from the beginning. Delete keyframes there. Just with the factor shader this time. Delete keyframes. Delete keyframes. There we go. 75 sounds good. No, I don't want to mix it. I just want to animate the value. I would just want to animate the value of the basically switching between emitted version and an unemitted version, as if the sign is kind of, you know, there's an old bulb in there and it just flashes on and off. That's the plan. So I here, a few frames later, maybe just 5 is good, 75 to there, take that to 0. Then we leave it there for a few frames, it being off, and about it's 10 frames, 20 frames later here, it comes back, frame 100, it comes back. Why is this thing still on 100? I don't understand. Probably because I haven't set the new value as the thing, have I? 0. There we go. Unemitted, perfect. So on frame 100, well, let's say on frame like 96 or so, and by frame 100, we're back with a value of 1. And it does that again at around here. Couple of frames, 4 or 5 frames here, value of 0, I. By here, I again, it goes back to 1, I. Now, I like the effect, it's all good, but it's too slow. It's the animation is it's off a little bit too long. You can just about barely see what that thing is doing here. You know, the off values are just off a little bit too long, so I need to move the keyframes together just a little bit more. Otherwise, a little bit looks too, you know, it needs to happen faster. Maybe then 5 frames is too slow. Let's do that. But that should really be no problem at all. I'm going to zoom in to the timeline here and just go take these keyframes, just these keyframes, move them slightly closer here. And likewise, these guys. Oh no, sorry, those were the wrong keyframes. Yes, very funny. Those were the wrong keyframes. This is the interval that I need to change. So I'm going to go and, oops, move these guys closer to here. Isn't that the case? Am I making a thinking mistake? This is the transition, and this is the off value. These need to be get closer together then. What are these then? What are these things? Do we need those? Oh, that's the transition. Okay. What was I doing here? What are these then? Do we need these? We don't need these then. We need one transition. Oh, we did need those. Man, confused. Gormor. Artifacting. Oh, that's not good. Let me know what it's like now. It looks fairly stable at my end, but you know, it's one of those things. So that I need to bring this thing back. What was I doing here? What was I doing? I can bring me back my keyframe. Come on, there we go. Shaders on, shaders off now. That's nice and fast. And here goes, this is it going back up again. So that needs to move closer to here. Oh, actually, I wanted to make that, didn't I? That's the spirit. That flicker is perfect. I think I've got it now. And now we do the same thing here. Move those closer to there. And move these closer to here, and those guys closer to here, and that should flash. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, that's more believable. I think they could even flash even quicker. Also, they could flash more often. Like, you know, faster, like they don't just do this, they do this almost, you know, like 1, 2, 3 times, something like that. I wonder if I can go and copy those keyframes as like a border select. See if it works. Or duplicate the keyframes even, that's a good idea. Let me try that. Duplicate the keyframes and then just move them over here. Is that something that would be cool? Or is that going to be bzz, bzz? Actually, that's exactly what I want, isn't it? That's exactly what I want. Let's do that again. Duplicate, move them over here. Can you see the flashing in the stream? It's probably really hard to see. I can only see it just about. But it's kind of enough for me to make fine adjustments there. Subtle, right? Yeah, it'll be much more pronounced in cycles. I like the frequent flashes here, but again, I want to make that faster. I wonder if we actually do need a transition between one and another. I think I can probably just get away with switching it from on to off. I don't think I need to have an animation, like a transition in between there. I think that may not do us any favors here. I'm thinking. Animation nodes, okay. Oh wow, Captain Slaymore, I didn't see that you did that. What was that? Is this an ember? Did you send an ember? That is very cool. I didn't know that existed. Whoa, thank you so much for the ember. That's awesome. First ember on Mixer. They've ruled that out. They kind of smuggled that in there, Microsoft have. It's their answer to kind of super chat and cheering with bits, and only partners usually get that. I'm not really, ooh, Captain, you're the man. And usually only partners get that, but they've opened this up now so that, like, you know, the everyman can also just register. And I didn't know this was active yet. That is so cool. Thank you so much. I didn't know that was working. Wow, exciting stuff. Well, I think I can get away with just flashing from 1 to 0 here. So I think I'm going to be completely brave and go delete all of them and just start again. Like you often do in art. It's often not something that you get right on the first go. So let's see if we can make more frequent flashes. So starting about here, like 75, that's cool. So factor I1 is good. Literally, so everything's on until here, and then literally like here, I guess, will be off. Is that how we do that? Is that how we do that? Good point. Good point, Gorma. Very good point. Yeah, let's just try that. I here, 0 there. And is but that's a transition again, isn't it? We're on until here. Or is that at the point at which it changes? Let me put 0 here. What happens then? That perfect. So that is literally, no, it's not good. 0 here, 0 I to lock in the keyframe. And now we're 0 all the time. So no, that's not the way to do it. So it has to be 1 here and I, so that there's the keyframe here. So I suppose then the next frame, literally, is this how do I do 1 frame forward? That's play. Is it just the cursor key? No, it's just the cursor key. Good stuff. So at that point, 0 I, we're off for a couple of frames, and then we're back on I. And then we're on again. Here we're starting to flash again. Perfect. And for that, I'm just going to go and duplicate those keyframes here. Duplicate. All right. Shift D does the same thing. I like it. Flickers 3 times. I like it. Perhaps we're going to go and Shift D you guys over here, and Shift D you guys over here, and over here again. See what that does. Bzz, 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 bzz. Perfect. Now, have we correctly picked the position? Probably not. I'd like for that to flash here, then nothing happens, and the next flash kind of happens maybe here. So for that, I'll just go take my keyframes and grab them over to here. Stays on, everything's cool, and then we flash again. Okay. I think that is what I like. I think that is what I want to see. Yeah, I think I can live with that. We may even, do we need another flash? Indeed, that's Graphili. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is exactly what I just realized. Transitions are not a good idea. We can just go literally 1 to 0, 0 to 1. I might even take one of these out again, that this only flashes once. Whoops. So this is on, off, on. Yeah, so these can then come out, I guess. Is that how we do that? So just flashes twice here, everything's cool, and then it flashes 3 times over here. Okay. Okay, great. Let's go and save this thing as Cinema 18. We do, yes. That'd be good. Maybe I can put that in the post. Just some zzz effects. I think I'll see if I can make that happen. That'd be kind of nice. They would then, of course, this is where game engine would really come in handy, because I guess the closer we come to the light, the louder they'd have to get. Maybe I won't go through all the trouble. Maybe it's just a subtle visual effect. Let me go and have a look at this material here. That's been kind of bothering me to look at that. That's not really a material. Let's see if we can find something equally cool to this with the PBR materials. It may be quite difficult to pick that booth out. I think there was an issue with actually picking that. This is front. Let me select all the front. Oh no, it's not actually. It's fine. Front. Perfect. What could that be? Could that be? Could be like a brick thing. Concrete. Could be like a concrete. Could be covered in marble. Paint maybe. Rod Shelley, oh my God, Rod, that is so cool. You get a round of applause for that. Whoa. That is really nice of you. Thank you so much. And you're going to send me a Thanksgiving card too. That is just, wow. That is really nice of you. Thank you. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. That is so cool. Guys, I love you. This is nice. This is nice. Let's do this more often. Let's hang out more often. What do you think would be a good material for this front thing? Like what type of material are we talking? Would this be concrete? Would this be bricks? It might be some kind of bricks, but I'm not sure. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that, Joe. No problem. From both of you. No worries. I like it. Bricks, I don't know. I don't see plaster. There we go. I think plaster. Painted plaster. Painted plaster 7. Yeah, the wall, Brian, is that's kind of the default material. I like to offset that with something that looks a little bit nicer, because this is not a PBR. It looks okay, but it's not great. Tiles. Let's have a look at tiles. Graffiti. Let's do tiles. I like it. Tiles. Tiles, indeed, like on a tube station. Those kind of tiles, right? Like half shiny. Something like this. Not sure if I like the green. Could try the red. Why don't we try the red? Or just white. Let's try red. Let's put red tiles. Let's do that. Red tiles. That's good. Everything except for displays. Let's do it. Tiles, okay. Almost. It's just that perhaps the scale is a little bit much. But in principle, I think I like the color. I think I like it. Yes, I like it. It'll be kind of tone and tone, and it'll just match the whole thing. That is cool. Let's see if we can, in the UV editor with all these things selected, if we can drop that down to 0.1. Do we need to have it selected actually, or do we not? Just satisfy my own curiosity here. Yes, we do have it selected. We have to have it selected. Otherwise, nothing works. That could work. Could even make him a little darker. I think maybe if we're thinking of tube station kind of tiles, maybe I can make him a bit darker. Christina, you had a tip there yesterday of where and how I could do that. Was that in here as well on the material settings? we did something exciting with the saturation and the contrast and the brightness, indeed. Don't know how this is going to come out in cycles. Oops, I'm so sorry. Just try to dim that color down a little bit. Maybe that's not going to be so good. Preview on the matte tab, yes. Do you know, I do forget that it actually exists. So yeah, if I do, yes, indeed. And this is actually the cycles preview, right? This is what makes this cool. Am I right in saying that? This is the cycles preview? Because I can just about see the bits and bobs doing their thing there. Let me go bring this back to 1, and this was 0. And if we just go -5, oh, that's the contrast, sorry. Brightness, -5. That does that. And if I just go with the saturation a little bit less, maybe I can then make up for that in the no. Now I do understand. You see, now it makes perfect sense. I never when this was. I discovered this during the kind of Blender render days, and I was always thinking this makes no sense. I might as well look at that. But now it actually makes a lot of sense that that I get to work with Blender more and more. That's kind of nice. So I guess also then on this thing I can then say, hey, whatever is better for me to preview then, shader ball or whatnot, on a cloth, whatever thing I'm making. If I'm making fluids, if I'm making a simple plane, I like it. I like it. Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool. I like the shader ball here. That's nice. Gives me an impression of what this looks like with ambient occlusion and all that. Can I turn this as well? No, that's okay. I don't need to do that. That's cool. Well, let's see this thing in its full glory then, with the full cycles preview. Yes, Christina, who said fish? We don't get it. Oh, have I not set my... Oh yeah, there we go. Viewport 0. Boom. Let's do this. Good point, Graffiti. I will do that. I will do that. Yes, I'd like for them to be more shiny myself, actually. Yes, let's do that. Color-wise, what do we think of the color? I think it's okay. What I don't like so much is that we also see them on the inside of the thing. So I don't know if there is an inside and an outside to this booth. I hadn't thought of that. I don't know if there is. I have a look. I'd have to make a whole new material selection just for the outside surface. Do you know, and it's like a tube station in London. That's exactly what that looks like. Kind of, it's more like a dark type thing. But let's just make it more shiny, and I think, shiny black, you think? Shiny black instead of red. Let's see what we can do. Maybe we can just go take the saturation down to 0. And then perhaps increase the contrast to something interesting. But no, I can see that's not going to work. I'll go back to my material preview. Roughness, yeah, they're very rough. So let's make him shiny, like maybe 0.3. Oh, the same material. This one here. Well, okay, could do, and then just maybe make the scale a little bit larger. That's an idea, so that they're not small tiles. These could be larger tiles. That might be nice. I kind of like the red though. I kind of like the red. Joe likes the colors the way they are now. We have a lot of work to do too, so maybe we'll just go and leave it as it is. Let's just have one more look at this with the reduced roughness there. We could always just overlay something, I guess. You know, make an overlay to make that darker. I do get your point, Brian. I do get your point. There is something. Yes, I do know what you mean. Why don't we try that then? Why don't we try taking the same material as above, like the facade material? So go copy that and put that onto here. Let's try it in black. Paste the same material on here, and it looks like the scale is already different, so I don't have to do much to it. I could perhaps just leave it. I might scale them up just a little bit. And perhaps increase the roughness on this tad, so that we do have a bit of a separation between this material and that material. Oh dear. I'd like to see if we do actually have, if there are two sides to this, you know, or if this is just one side. I think it's just one side. Because the thing is, what I'm worried about is that we see the inside of the booth through the window, and before we put a material on here, I didn't quite mind because I didn't know it was the same material. But now that I see that the outside material looks exactly the same as the inside material, I'm not entirely convinced about this looking good in black, because we're basically getting black all over. What did you think of the red tiles then, Christina? Yeah, I see we don't know that there is actually an inside going on here. I think that's just, yeah, let's not use black tiles. What were your thoughts on the red tiles? Is that something you liked, or shall we just bring it back to the dull red material? It's not difficult, it's true, Graphili, but it's time consuming. I had for this envisioned to be like a half-hour, let's get the files ready for rendering session, rather than, you know, I do always get hung up with materials though, because there's just so much you can do and it's so exciting. But sometimes it's important to curb the excitement and say no. Let's go back to the original red. I think that is what I want to do. I think I'm going to go back to the original red. Let me see if I can find that in the history here. Next time, I promise you, this is not going to be the last project. Do you know, I might just go and revert back to my save file. That's probably the easiest way to do. I just want to get this out and have my nodes render this so that I have a title sequence to begin these streams with, like the one that actually says correctly what it is that we're doing. And I'm more than happy to do experiments like that going forward for sure. No, actually, let's do 16, 19, and that could be it. Let's try that. This is it? Can't be. What's going down? Oh, Blender's still working on it. Okay. Solidify the faces. What does that do, Christina? And we still have our flashy lights. It's all good. Flashy lights are a go. And this is it. Now you look at it and you think, well, that's just dull, isn't it? But that's what we're gonna do. Yeah, I'm not good on modeling, I must say. I just screw things up. We'll leave it like it is. It's fine. It's fine. Some kind of undefined thing. We get distracted by all the lights and reflections anyway. It's cool. We'll leave it like that. That's fine. This is the one thing we're always going to look at. I mean, the other thing of trouble is, of course, the outside of the whole theater. But as I said, we're going to pick this up at another time. So with those flashy lights set, I don't think I'm going to flash these. I think that's just a solid light that we'll have there. And this we're all good with. So that's literally the final file. I can leave it as it is and have that render for J plays. So that's for J plays, because we have another thing to do. So that's literally, I'll just go save that as so that I remember. J plays final. J plays final. There we go. You're making me interested in this solidify thing, guys. But must not do it. But it's folks, stay on point. Stay on point, everyone. Stay on point. So that's that. Now I'm going to save the same file again as 3D Shenanigans final. Well, it's not going to be final just yet, but let's just call it 3D Shenanigans. 3D Shenanigans. Save it as version 1. And now let's go replace those textures here. So in the shading tab, I think I have prepared that already, so let's go and see. If only I could find where it was. Was it here in textures? Could be J plays outside. Oh, that's outside. 3ds outside. V2. That was it. 3D Shenanigans version 2. Yes, there we go. That's what it shall look like. Now showing 3D Shenanigans. And we have the same thing on this side here. So that is the one that we didn't animate. So that's the one with the bulb that is working. J plays and 3D Shenanigans outside 2. There we go. Okay, that's one texture replaced. The next one is inside. Oh, that's the next one's inside. That's this one here. And I'm not sure if I actually have this as 3D Shenanigans yet, so I think I may have to make that. That's J plays inside. I don't think I have that yet. Okay, let's go make that. What, I wonder, was it called before? Maybe Photoshop remembers. Like, also, I promise on the next project I'm actually getting organized, you know, putting files into into separate folders, one for textures, one for this, one for that, rather than just go put things into, you know, into several folders and then wondering, hey, I wonder what that was called, where I put that and all that. The whole workflow thing there. There we go. That was it. I13 Morph Sign 76. There we go. That's yeah, that's it. And I do remember this particularly well because we were fiddling with the aspect ratio here, weren't we? I do remember that. See if I can remember where that was. That was here, pixel aspect ratio. Custom pixel aspect ratio. Or was it this one here? Was it, do you remember? Yes, it remembers. Photoshop remembers. That's nice. So now I don't have to guess where things were. Oops. Just in case we need that again, perhaps I'm going to go make a duplicate of that. 3D, and it fits on the sign. 3D Shenanigans. Yeah. Those are ice cubes in yesterday's coffee. I thought I'd make it into an iced coffee, so there we go. That is all we need. Yes, I remember we did this whole thing on here about the content-aware fill and all that. I can't really just call it I13 Morph Sign 76. I'd like to. Let's start organizing this thing right now, right today. Cinema textures. That's a good idea. Let's put that in here, and rather than calling it something that I don't remember what it is, let's call it inside sign. Does that make sense? That's the inside sign. It's inside sign texture, perhaps. I'm always looking for new tools, Steve, to stay a little bit more organized than I currently am. And I've got lists, and then I have other lists for those lists. It's quite frightening. Quite frightening a concept. Inside sign texture, and we're going to make that a JPEG. I like it. That's that, and yes, and there's textures inside sign texture JPEG open image. Yes, now showing 3D Shenanigans. Arguably, we could probably move that up ever so slightly. In fact, let's do it. Let's not talk about it. Let's do it. Probably have to go and move everything up. Are we moving everything up? Just to do it, that's right. And not just that, I meant also literally everything. Everything. Except for that layer. So just this and that and that. Come on, we can do that. Let's move all these things up. Why is my text not moving with this? Ludicrous. Could not nudge the selection because the pixels in the type layer cannot be modified without first rasterizing the layer. No one asked you to do that. That's just a freaking text layer, isn't it? Isn't it? Go rasterize all you want then. Rasterize, rasterize. Rasterize layer then. Why is that a selection? I thought it was a text layer. Crazy. Sometimes Photoshop is just ever so slightly crazy. Good thing we still have that original layer in case we get sidetracked. to one, like 3 pixels up a notch, you know, takes 7 hours. That's just what happens in 3D. Captain Slaymore, be my guest. Absolutely, always welcome. Because this must not be the last iteration of this. You know, we could always have. Was it Alt R to reload that image here? We can always make further versions of this. You know, like I said, people, cars, more materials. Do I really have to go into here and then press R, Alt R in here, because that's terrible. More the user experience. I'm sure there's a better way. I just don't know it. It's image, reload there. All we wanted. Now we see that little bit of a strip down there. Hawkeye's Arrow 06 bot. How you doing? Bots are people too. I'm going to nudge it down just a smidge again. Maybe not so much these things, but literally, you know, maybe it's just that and that. Actually, and this as well. There. Okay, perfect. Now I'll try again. I could have just mapped the Photoshop file, just save the Photoshop file. Totally possible. I do want to replace it. Crazily enough, go over here, hit image, reload here. And now it's perfect. Look at the perfection. Look at the perfectness on the sign. I'm happy. I'm happy now. This wasn't even the difficult thing. The difficult thing is going to happen now when it's about replacing the video, because this now needs to say 3D Shenanigans in there quite clearly. So let's make that happen. I can do that in Premiere or in Camtasia. What do you think? Any preferences? Camtasia is kind of rough and dirty, but it's also quick and simple. And Premiere is all advanced and sophisticated. Do you like that? Julia says, let's do Premiere. Premiere. Baxter says Premiere. Anyone else? Let's do Premiere. Okay, Premiere it is. Let's see if it still works. I've just upgraded yesterday. Oh, I got to tell you about this. Yesterday, or like right now, until the end of November, I believe, Adobe have this thing on that you can get the Creative Cloud for $30 a month if you've never been a subscriber before. Very cool. And I never have been a subscriber of the Creative Cloud, of the whole like all apps plan. I've always been a Photoshop subscriber. Not always, but like for 2-3 years or something. And so literally last week I bought Premiere as a standalone application on top of Photoshop, because that is cheaper than chilling out $52.99 a month for the whole Creative Cloud package, because I needed Premiere on this hardware. And so yesterday I've noticed, hey, now Creative Cloud is $29.99 a month, whereas $9.99 for Photoshop plus $20.99 for Premiere is actually $30.99, $30.98 in fact, and hence it would have been cheaper for me to go with the whole Creative Cloud plan. But when I subscribed to Premiere, I didn't quite know that that deal existed yet. So I got in touch with the friendly people from Adobe via Twitter and said, hey, Adobe, how you doing? Can we do something like, i.e. refund for the Premiere thing? And can I just go and subscribe to Creative Cloud as of yesterday? And they said, sure. But of course, it wasn't that easy. It was super difficult to do. I had to cancel all my plans first and then resubscribe. And I could only resubscribe once everything was canceled. And that took a few moments, and I was thinking, what's going to happen to my Creative Cloud files? What's going to happen to my access to, and luckily everything was fine. But there we go. There we go. $80 a month. Wow. Crazy stuff. I know they should offer that for existing customers too, and also they should just go and you know, just let you upgrade much easier than that. Cinema video, I'm going to call the project. What's Logi Objects Options version 8? What is that? Let's close that. We never saw that. Let's bring in the one clip that I know is playing currently in the theater, which is here, and it's J Plays Movie 3. That's the one. So I'm going to go open that and pop that onto, turn that into that and open that. That's perfect. So that is already, that's that. It even doesn't have, has audio on it as well. Look at that. How interesting. Oh yes, it's got all the audio on it. We don't need the audio here, but I put the slate in because I thought it might be a nice, that was during testing, I thought it might be a nice thing to see just before the movie starts. That's the feeling I wanted to create. So that's why I did that. So I'm going to leave that in place before, right at that point. I'm going to go and mute that audio, and I'm going to put that other clip from 3D Shenanigans right on there. I do, of course, not quite know where that is, so give me a moment to find out. It's probably on the desktop somewhere. Could be in here somewhere. There we go, yeah, perfect. I was thinking about this, fly through clean, that was it. That was the other option I had. Let's bring both of them in. Trekkie Patrick, how are you? Good to see you. I'm glad you approve of my K4000 purchase for $60. That was good. It was an impulse buy, but I thought that might increase my rendering nodes there. Yesterday I splashed out $60 for a very old Quadro K4000 card, and I did that because I have two render nodes. One with the GTX 970 and the other one with a K4000 in there. That came free with the computer, so I thought, hey, that's totally awesome. I like that. And flashy lights. That's nice. I like this to be my I like this to be my out. In fact, all this can be my, the whole thing can be my out. Let's just go put the whole thing in. Tweak it on the timeline. Unlink that, get rid of the audio here, and probably come in a little bit later. Also come in at about here. Let's do that. So go cut that. Actually, no, I shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have done that. I need some kind of a guide as to where the video ends. So somewhere here. That's perfect. And this is where it can begin. So this is what it would look like. I'd kind of like to see more of the flying thing here. More of the city fly through before we even get here. Yes, maybe just that in the corridor here, from here. That's what I'd like to. That's what I'd like to see. And then we're here, and then I can actually go and just have that hold there for a little bit longer. That's nice. Yeah, let's do that. Well, Rod, exactly, that was my thinking as well. The whole Creative Cloud application, I don't really, I use Photoshop and I use Premiere really, and that's really all I need. And it was cheaper to just buy Photoshop and Premiere separately. This is actually enough. This is all we need really. That's all we need. And then make sure we go out before that happens. I just stay on here. That's exactly what we need. That's perfect. I like it. So we get rid of that, put that back to here. We extend that to the front, and Bob's your uncle, Betty is your aunt, as they say. What is your preference, my friends? Shall we leave the clock playing, or shall we just rather have the whole sequence going? Well, the clock kind of suggests there's something like a show, like a movie reel being projected and the show's just about to begin. It's just kind of a little gag. Or shall we basically see this on the screen as we move into the theater? What do you think? Julia says the clock. I can see both things being cool. Perhaps I'm going to, why don't we, you know, that's actually a cool idea. Let's just render both versions out. Let's render both versions out. Let's call this one 3D Shenanigans, or just 3DS full sequence. And then we're going to go and copy that. And we're just going to look at this in situ, and then we're just going to look at what it looks like in Eevee there. Let's do that. Duplicate. This is funny, isn't it? A context menu with, have you ever counted these amounts of options here? What is that, 57 right-click options? This is a classic example of feature creep. And I'll call this one clock sequence. Oops. And spell correctly, there we go. And then, speaking of that organizational thing I told you about, I'll just put these things into a bin. You'd imagine you just drag it into the bin, and then that way, there we go. Call that footage. And then we have these two things here. Great, let's go and export them. On the Mac, that was always Command M. Oh, there we go. It's Control M over here. High bitrate is probably good. Audio we don't need, but that's all totally fun. We go and put that into maybe textures, maybe into the root folder here. Root folder it is. Let's do that. Yes, Goma, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I'll just go export it from here. I don't need to open yet another application for a 10-second thing. Do you know, funny you should mention the cancel button. I had problems with that as well. What didn't work for me so well there was, according to Adobe, was that it looked like I had hit the deactivate plan button rather than cancel plan button. And I was thinking, I could have sworn there was no cancel button. Otherwise I would have clearly pressed it. And it's bizarre because I was this close to thinking perhaps I should just record the process of me canceling my existing plans and signing up to the new thing, just so that I have a record of what buttons I have actually pressed. And of course I didn't. So maybe it's not actually your eyes, Steve. I wonder if it's just... there we go. These experiences are very cleansing, I think. There, Jay Plays movie. Let's go and open the thing with the clock first. It does, doesn't it? Yeah, it's good to share these things as well, because somebody designs a bad interface and we're the ones suffering. And, you know, maybe it's not actually the interface that sucked. Maybe there's somebody else that sucked. Do you know what I mean? Now the video isn't playing, so let's hack that in. I believe the previous values, exactly the previous values were... We're doing Blender now. Yes, Patrick, we're doing Blender 2.81. It's still got that new Blender smell to it, you know, everything smells new. Was it 653? 653, and start frame was 700, I think. That's what it was. Don't quote me on it. Let's have a look what this looks like in situ. Slowing down, so I guess I exported that in a higher resolution than it needed to be, really. So this is with the full clock on there, with the full Shenanigans on there. So we're seeing 3D Shenanigans as we go into the theater. And so my main concern really is this little path here. When we come into this, right now the full motion video is already running. Is that cool? And then we just get immersed into this. Or shall we have it like I have it in JPlays, in which I have the beginning of the countdown clock? Let me know what you think. Oh, there we go. This was still open. So in here, we have this, that when we move into the room, this is what the final is going to look like. We move into the room, but there's a kind of a white screen and there's the clock running that suggests the show is just about to start. I think I like that better. And then we launch into the 3D Shenanigans. What is your preference? What do your laptops smell like, Rod? This way. Like this way, with the clock. You're saying, Patrick, clock? Let me try and set this up like new Blender. Let me see if I can do a poll. I want to run a poll. How do we run a poll again? There was a run poll feature. Clock, right? Yeah, let's do that. Create poll. Shall we see the clock? There, 30 seconds. You can vote. If you're on Mixer, you can vote at the top of your screen, I believe. And then we can, we can have a look. But I think I'm with you. I'd like to see this with the holding clock here, because it just suggests it goes in line with the lights are still on, and this, you know, the movie's about to begin, and the projections is literally just put the thing in, switch the projector on, and then we see the show. Three say yes. 3 people say 3. 3 people say 3. That's like 9 people. No, it's 3 people say yes. Let's do the clock. No one wants to not see the clock. Clock, 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 clock. Let's do this. I like it. Thank you so much for your votes. I think we already have a winner. We have a winner. We have a winner. Let's go put the clock in, because this is without the clock, and I don't think I like it. It just, even though it's seamless and sexy and swanky, I do like to see when we come in here. I like to see that the screen thing is just about to begin. Let's put this in. Let's do that. Thank you for your input. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you. Let's go and put the 3ds clock sequence in instead. And go back to 653 here. Come on, Blender, you can do it. Oh, wrong keyboard. Not Blender's fault. 653. And start frame was 700, I believe. We can tweak that if we are so inclined. Blender thinks about it for a second. Let's go back to the full screen preview here with the highest possible resolution, and oh, right. Texture has not updated. Why? Is that old? .3ds clock sequence. Oh, interesting. 3ds clock sequence. Not here? Why not? How do I reload that texture? I've been looking for a way to reload a texture from the shader tab here. I can only seem to do it when the image is actually open, but not on here. That'd be so helpful if there's just one button here that just goes and say, hey, reload the texture. Also looks like I've got two. Why is that then? Clock sequence. Is this not the clock sequence? Maybe I need to start earlier then, because is that it? I knew this was going to be difficult. Full sequence and clock sequence. We need the clock sequence. That's the one we need. That's the one we need. And this doesn't animate because we have to tell it at which point to start animating and what the start frame of the animation is. So it doesn't have to animate until we come in, which I believe was frame somewhere here. 680, let's just say 680. So start frame is 680. And then we need to tell it at which frame of our animation it wants to begin, I believe. Was that how it worked? I just wrote an article about this and of course forgotten how it actually works. Maybe I'm gonna have to reread my notes there. Yes, let me actually do that. Sometimes it's good to refer to my own notes. That's why I make these things, because oh no, that's not it. No, it was quite recent. Movie file as a texture in Blender, that was it. Good thing I've remembered the values here, 653 and 700. So those were the correct values. What were the frame options about? Say your movie has 1,000 frames and you want to start at the beginning of your 1,000 frame animation. However, you'd like the animation to stop and freeze the last frame after 500 frames. You can achieve this by giving Blender 500 as the frames value. That makes sense. Likewise, if your animation is 1,000 frames, but your movie file is much longer than this, just give it 1,000 frames and the movie will play until your animation is over. The value does not need to be exact. Start frame denotes on which frame of your animation Blender shall start running your movie. Right, 0 is the default, which means Blender starts playing as soon as the animation begins. In my case, I didn't need that because my movie screen object doesn't kick in until about frame 700. Good stuff. You're welcome, you're welcome. It's on my website, verslewis.com. Under contents, you can see either a list of every article I've ever written, or you can head over to just the Blender articles. And then you see a breakdown. So these are all for Blender 2.79 and above and below. And then recently I've started writing the notes for Blender 2.8 and above. Yes, it's been very helpful. So whenever like this is a great example of something I've just done this. What were the values again? So that's where this really comes in handy. But I think what's still happening here in our case is that the Blender just hasn't updated the file. So I don't think this is the one with the clock, even though it reads that. I think it just, I don't know. I think it just hasn't quite. It's got its, what's the word? Its knickers in a twist. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna rename this thing into clock sequence 2. Just be, whoops, because it's already, yes, okay, man. Okay, fine. There's got to be a way to just reload this thing. And I can't seem to make that work. There's one other way that I can test my movie sequence, of course, and that is by going inside that object. Just look at the object like that, and then just make everything else disappear. Like literally everything. There we go, perfect. So that should just play the movie, which is large, but it's the wrong one. So it's not, it's, even though it does say it's the, is it actually the right movie? This is what takes so forever here. Clock sequence. Do you actually start with a clock? You don't. Ha ha ha. That makes sense. Blender is perfectly doing the correct thing. And how about the full sequence? The full sequence is also not doing that. That's terrible. Right, that's back to Premiere. Export the right file. What are you all doing? Terrible. Captain Slaymore, oh my God, you're the man. Captain Slaymore, you get something exciting. Come on, come on. I'll think about it. You get applause, my friend. Captain Slaymore has just pledged $5 via Patreon. That is unbelievable. You are the man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. That is very, very kind of you. I love my Patreon supporters. That is just so wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for hanging. That is so nice of you. You see what I did here in the clock sequence is I just copied it, but I didn't make the change. So let's go and make that change. And now we have the clock, which should work. There we go. And now we can export that, man. It's one of those things. Clock sequence _1. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Oh, I'm having a great time doing this, and it makes such a difference doing it together with you. Sometimes I would not go through all this trouble, or sometimes I might stop a project and it doesn't get done. So this really keeps me productive, but it's also really nice to get some input and feedback while we do all this together. So I do appreciate all these aspects of it. Clock sequence _1. 653. Start frame 700. There we go. So everything stops until about here when we run the movie, and there's my clock. Perfect. Let's bring back, oops, let's bring back all the stuff like that, and the lights and the walls of the cinema. Let's do all that and see what our journey into the auditorium looks. Yeah, look at that. So there's no change here. The clock starts running. Finally, my goodness, the clock starts running. And then the 3D Shenanigans comes in and we do this move, so it's all kind of soft and animated, and it goes until the very end here. I think we've done it. I think we've done it. Got the flashy lights on the outside. We've changed all the textures. Now showing 3D Shenanigans. Flashy lights. Flashy lights, flashy lights. Captain Slaymore, by the way, before I forget, I will send you a message later via Patreon and invite you to our Discord server. That's something that I'm keeping for Patreon supporters. Any tier gets it. I've been meaning to integrate the two things together. So Patreon is apparently able to kind of, assign the roles automatically. Never worked for me, sadly. It's Christina has a Patreon account, worked for her. We did some testing, very easy to integrate. But on my thing, there's something wrong. For some reason, whenever I try to connect Patreon with Discord, the whole system falls apart every time. So I've given up and I'm just sending out invites manually. It'll just, usually take a couple of days, but I will do that this afternoon. And then, join us on Discord if you use Discord. Texture changed on the outside. Flashy lights implemented. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Still looking for the sound effects. Going in here, did all that. Now showing 3D Shenanigans with the correct gap at the bottom. Then we go in and now we see the 3D Shenanigans title sequence here. That is nice. I just want to have, before I save this, whoops. I will save this and just have a quick look at the last frame of the animation in cycles here. Let's just go over save that, that's cool. Just so that we get an impression of what that looks like on the screen. And then we'll also do a quick cycles render at the places in which I've replaced the textures. And then I can kick both of these sequences off for a high-res render. I might do, something along the lines of 500 to 1,000 samples. I think that'll look adequate. Yeah, yours worked, Steve. Christina's worked. But for me, it kind of didn't work. So it's one of those things, this up in the air magicness. Life's too short, If it works, great. If it doesn't work, we'll find other ways. So I like that. Last frame of the animation looks good. We'll just go step through a few. So this is where all the lights are just about to come out here. I switched on all the lights again. I think I have. Just satisfy my curiosity, my massive lights collection up here. We're going in. Nice and light, so no change up until we see the 3D Shenanigans title sequence. Very cool, very cool. That is nice, Christina, thank you, that's very cool. How to cancel Adobe. Yes, make sure you don't accidentally click the deactivate button like I did. Oh, there was another texture over here, wasn't there? Let's have a look at that. Here it is. Here it is. Now showing 3D Shenanigans. Nice and simple. I like it. Yes, and Captain Slaymore, if you have any ideas for funky movie posters, do let me know. They might as well find their way in here in another version of this epic. And then the main one on the front here, there we go. Now showing 3D Shenanigans with flashy lights and all that. You see, Christina, I don't think there was a deactivate button for me as well. I think I would have quite intuitively just clicked the cancel button and it just, one of those things didn't work. But I think, it is actually a cool idea even if you've been a long time Creative Cloud subscriber, if you do want to make use of that deal, just create another account. So if you're not using Creative Cloud, just quickly take the files out, sign up with a different email address, save yourself 20 odd bucks a month for 1 year. So that's the only downside, is the price goes up once that year is over. But who's to say there's no other kind of Halloween whatever deal at that point? So that, I was going to put that to 0 here, wasn't I? 0, there we go. 0, 0, there. And then we see this, come up in all its beauty over time. I'm thinking I'm going to kick this off with, ideally with 1,000 iterations at 1920 by 1080 per frame, but that takes forever to run. So I think what I might do is I might start one in 500 samples in 1280 by 720, and then let that finish, and then after that I might try the other one in slightly higher and just let it run, even if it takes a week. We have a nicely done high resolution thing with the AI denoiser. I was going to do that, Christina. Yes, that was the plan. Exactly. I didn't know I was going to run this long. I really thought, Julia warned me of this. I said to her at about 2 o'clock, hey, I just want to kick this render off. And she said, do you know, yeah, do it fast. Otherwise, you're going to crash into the game stream. Or are you going to do the 3D stream as a replacement for the game stream? And I thought, no, I'll do both. It's cool. I didn't know it was going to be 20 past 5 already. But hey, so what we'll do is... we'll take a quick break at this point, my friends, and after that, is this the one? Yes, after that, I will be back. Give me about 5 or 10, maybe 15 minutes, and then I'll be back with SUPERLIMINAL. That'll be interesting. Second installment. Brian's already played it. Rod and Joe have got to go to dinner soon, but as long as you can, please stay with me. And we'll do a bit of SUPERLIMINAL. That'll mess with our brain, as if 3D hasn't done enough of that. It's one of those things. Thank you so much for your generous donations, Rod and Captain Slaymore, for your 2 donations, by the way. Very exciting. Welcome to Patreon. As I said, I'm going to send you a Discord invite out shortly after. And if you're free, join us for SUPERLIMINAL. Yes. Stay tuned.